Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm gonna show you 5 ways to take a single pound of boring ground beef and turn it into a fun, delicious dinner for 4 people. All 5 of these recipes are meticulously tested, so I promise they actually work, and I designed them all to take 30 minutes or less. So they're quite fast. 1 pound of ground beef is something I always have in my fridge, and I'm always asking myself, hey Bri, what do I even do with that? This video is the answer to that question. First up is a beef version of one of my favorite Thai dishes, Pad Kra Pao. To make it, I'll start with my wok and drop it on the stove over high heat. If you don't have a wok, you should get one because they're cheap and awesome, but also a large nonstick pan would work here. Just use medium-high heat instead of high, and yes, woks do work on electric and induction ranges. While that heats, I'll chop some stuff. First, I'll grab a roughly half pound or 200-ish grams of green beans and chop those into 1-inch lengths. Next, I'll take 3 shallots and chop those into large chunks. I want pieces that are about a ½ inch wide by a 1/4 inch thick, and in total I need roughly 100 grams. Sub in red onion if no shallots. Over at the stove, my wok is white hot, so I'll add in a long squeezer of oil, or about 2 tablespoons worth, then I'll drop in my chopped green beans and a strong pinch of salt. Now I'll just stir these up and roast them hard to take off the raw edge and to get some color. For me, green beans are usually boring and overly green tasting, like raw chlorophyll, and I don't like that. So I like to rip them hard over high heat to get some meaty, savory flavors developed and to soften things up a little bit. And after 90 seconds to 2 minutes of high heat, these things are looking really good. So I'm gonna move them over to a bowl to hang out while I cook everything else. Wok goes back down over high heat now. Then I'll put in some more oil and drop in 1 pound of ground beef, then a 2-finger pinch of salt, and then it's time to mush. By the way, for this recipe and all the recipes in this video, I'm using an 85-15 blend of ground beef because 15% fat gives us plenty of beefy flavor without making these dishes too greasy or needlessly calorie dense. Over at the wok, I've been browning and mushing for about 5 minutes, and I'll call things good here when the beef is crumbled down into pea-sized pieces or smaller. Next, I'll drop in my chopped shallots or red onions and then stir fry those for about 2 to 3 minutes over high heat. By the way, if things are starting to stick to the pan here, don't hesitate to add a splash of water. This will loosen up any meat that's sticking to the pan and will help create some steam that will soften the shallots. After 2 minutes, those shallots are looking translucent and they're about halfway cooked. So next in goes 15 grams each of grated ginger and minced garlic. I grated the ginger on my microplane and I pressed the garlic with my garlic press, but chopping them with a knife would be totally fine. From here, I'm gonna saute for about 60 seconds until the ginger and garlic are smelling fragrant. Man, that smells awesome. Next, I'll add in a big bag of baby spinach. To make it blend into this dish better, I actually prefer to give it a once over with my knife to chop the leaves down into smaller pieces. This helps avoid slimy, long pieces of spinach in the final dish. Also, spinach isn't customary in Thailand, but it adds nutrition to this dish and I think it works, so it goes in. In total, I've got about 5 ounces of spinach or 150 grams. Next, I'll drop in my roasted beans, then stir everything to combine and cook down the spinach. That'll take about a minute or so, and before moving on, it should look like this: softened shallots and melty spinach. Next, I'll add in the sauce by pouring it around the exterior of this hot wok, and then I'll reduce it for about 30 to 60 seconds. To make the sauce, I combined 50 grams of oyster sauce, or 30 grams of hoisin if no oyster, 25 grams of fish sauce, 25 grams of soy sauce, 50 grams of beef or chicken stock or water, and 25 grams of brown sugar. Then I'll just mix everything together. Okay, after 30 to 60 seconds of simmering, the beef and veggies are looking glazed up by the sauce, and the sauce itself is tightened up a little bit. So I'll kill the heat, then drop in 15 to 20 grams of chiffonade basil leaves. Bonus points if you use Thai basil or holy basil here. That's more authentically Thai, but it's usually kind of hard to get and only available at Asian supermarkets. And there we go, dude. Veggies are cooked, but not soggy. Sauce is gripping the meat well, and the beef itself is crumbled down into tender little pieces. This dish may not look beautiful, but let me assure you, the flavors truly are. They're sharp, vibrant, and in your face. I love it. To serve this thing, I'm gonna pile it on some sticky rice, then slide on a crispy fried egg with a runny yolk. Something about this feels kinda wrong, like you're getting too much flavor for too little work. Truly, this dish took me about 18 minutes start to finish, and it's remarkably delicious. That tastes exactly like the Pad Kra Pao that I had when I was in Chiang Mai.
That's not to say that I'm some authority on Thai food. I'm just saying that this dish tastes like Thai food in Thailand. It's salty, it's super umami, and it's funky from the fish sauce, and then that's all held together with the sweetness of the brown sugar and the oyster sauce. This dish is made with ingredients that you probably have in your fridge right now, which means that you have access to a very authentic Thai recipe, and it's a lot easier to make than pad Thai, which requires a lot of special ingredients and a lot of technique.
Dish 2 is an Indian-inspired weeknight banger called Keema Curry. To start, I've got my 12-inch nonstick medium hot, and I'm drizzling in 2 tablespoons of oil. Once hot, I'll add in 225 grams of medium diced onion, then 225 grams of potatoes, which are more of a large than medium dice. Then once all those potatoes are in there, I'll drop a strong pinch of salt, then jump in and start cooking. This first step is mainly about par cooking the onions and potatoes so that they reach the right texture later on when we're cooking the whole dish. All I want here is a bit of softening and a little bit of browning around the outside. And after 5 to 6 minutes of stirring and gentle sauteing, these potatoes and onions are about halfway cooked and browned a little bit. So next I'm gonna move them over to a bowl to hang out while I cook the rest of the dish. Moving into some medium heat oil, I'm gonna drop 1 pound or 450 grams of 85-15 ground beef, then hit it with a strong pinch of salt, then smash it with my beef weapon for about 5 to 6 minutes or until the beef is crumbled into quite small pieces with some golden brown color on the outside. Nice looking beef. Now to start building the sauce, I'm gonna add in 25 grams of tomato paste, 5 grams of cumin, 5 grams of curry powder, and 3 grams of garam masala. If you don't have garam masala, but you do have curry powder, I would say sub in 3 extra grams of the curry. Next, I'll stir in the spices and tomato paste to toast things off and to open up their flavors. Also, these spices can burn, so be quick about stirring them in and don't toast them off for too long. 30 to 40 seconds later, I'm gonna add in my potato and onion mix, then I'll stir that to combine to get those covered with all the spices and things. At this point, it's starting to look like a tasty dinner. Then next in is 200 grams of... Then remove any broken glass from the curry and add in 1 can of full-fat coconut milk, then stir to combine and bring up to a simmer. From here, I'll cook the potatoes and onions while reducing the liquid over medium heat for 5 to 8 minutes. Oh yeah, also add in a strong pinch of salt here. I didn't film that part, but it's important and it'll be noted in the recipe down in the description. After about 7-ish minutes of simmering this down, you can see it's reduced enough so that my spatula leaves a trail when I push it through. Now I just need to taste the potato for doneness. Texturally, I want these to be tender, but still have just a little bit of bite so I know I'm eating a perfectly cooked potato and not mashed potatoes. Next in goes 150 grams of frozen peas and about 150 grams of spinach. I also gave this spinach the chop treatment just like I did before for the same reasons as before. The last step is to just cook down the spinach and melt the frozen peas for about 1 more minute. If your dish is looking a little bit dry at this point, I'd say add in another big splash of coconut milk or just a little bit more water or stock. And that is some tasty looking ground beef, guys. I mean, we're all thinking it. Look at it. That's a bunch of comforting textures and flavors all tied up in one place.
At first glance, this dish seems like it's really humble and simple, but flavor-wise, it hits fucking hard. It's got 2 types of starches, it's got 2 vegetables, it's beefy as hell, and it's warm from all those spices. It's something that I just never get sick of eating. I love it.
Up next is a nasty little noodle dish that's honestly in the top 10 recipes that I've ever written. But first, I want to thank Bombas for sponsoring this video and keeping my toes cozy. When it comes to athletic performance, you really wouldn't think that socks make that much of a difference. But these Bombas golf socks are packed with a ton of features that make the experience of walking around the golf course and striping drives down the fairway much more comfortable for my feet. These socks have what's called zoned cushioning, so you can cover more distance on the course, and they use thermoregulation, moisture wicking, and under toe ventilation to help my feet stay cool and breathe. They have built-in arch support, no uncomfortable seam in the toe, and they have this padded tab in the back here that prevents my heel from getting blisties. But offering a very functional, high-quality sock product isn't the only reason that I like Bombas. When you buy a Bombas product, they also donate one, and so far they've donated over 150 million items. So Bombas makes your feet feel great and makes you feel great about yourself for having made a purchase. New customers right now will get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com/BrianL and use code BrianL at checkout. I wear some kind of Bombas sock nearly every single day, and I love them. Plus, they kind of make you better at golf. Look at this shot.
Freaking smashed it, bro.
To make this next dish, I'm gonna start with a medium saucepan full of water and bring it up to a boil. 5 minutes later, once this thing's rolling, I'll drop in a big grip of salt, then in goes a half pound or 225 grams of Asian wheat noodles. And I'm twisting those as I drop to avoid them sticking together. The specific noods that I'm using here are egg white lo mein noodles, and I'm certain that you can find something close to these at any standard issue grocery store in the US, but also if you can't, regular spaghetti would also work fine. Now, once in, I'm just gonna cook these noodles for about 4 to 5 minutes while I cut some veg. For that, I've got about a bunch and a half of broccolini. I'll chop off the woody stem end, then I'll slice the stem parts into 1/4-inch pieces. Once I get to the top, I'll go a little bit wider, maybe about 3/4 of an inch, because the tops get tender faster, and in my opinion, they taste better when they're cut bigger. In total, I need about 200 grams of chopped broccolini. Over at the noodles, I'll taste for doneness. I prefer these to be pretty tender and like a little bit past al dente. That's perfect. So next, I'll drain off the water, then hit the noodles with a very brief splash of cool water to slow down cooking, then I'll flip them over into a bowl. To keep these from becoming one large nest of sticky noodles, I'll hit them with a long ziggy of oil, then toss to combine. By the way, if your partner happens to be gluten-free like Lorne, the Jovial brand brown rice spaghetti is a great gluten-free sub for this recipe. Okay, once I've got oiled noodles, it's time to stir fry. I've got a high heat wok ripping yet again, then I'll squirt in 2 tables of oil, then drop in my chopped broccolini, a small pinch of salt, then I'll jump in and give this a spirited stir fry for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. One of the main things that wok cooking has going for it over non-stick is the texture that you can get from wok cooking a vegetable. As you toss and stir fry these veggies, they hit the upper edges of the wok, which are super hot, and that creates steam, which cooks the veggies really fast on the outside, while also maintaining a fresh snappiness on the inside. Overall, it just makes for a really beautiful, vivid vegetable eating experience. Non-stick pans are great, but the heat is lower, so the vegetable ends up being more uniformly cooked throughout. After about 2 minutes of stir frying here, I've got some roasty, fresh broccolini, so I'm gonna move it over to the noodle bowl to keep safe while I cook the rest of this dish. Okay, back over high heat, I'll add in a little bit more oil and then a pound of ground beef, and then do the exact same mush and brown maneuver that you've seen me do twice in this video already. That usually takes about 5 to 6 minutes, and once the beef looking good like this, I'm gonna add in 125 grams of chili crisp. This is my recipe for chili crisp, and probably one of the best, if not the best recipe that I made in 2024, and if you wanna make it yourself, I'll link to it down in the description. Otherwise, just sub in your favorite chili crisp. Once the crisp is in the pan, I'll jump in with a wooden spoon and stir to combine while scraping the pan to get any beef stuff that might be sticking a little bit loosened up, and I'll also take this as an opportunity to sizzle up the crisp. Oh my God, dude, look at this. Now to sauce this up, I'll add in 50 grams of soy sauce, 50 grams of mirin, 50 grams of water, 60 grams of unsweetened peanut butter, then 40 grams of hoisin. Then I'll stir that to combine and bring it up to a simmer. Honestly, this meat, peanut butter, and chili crisp concoction can stand alone as a beautiful dish in and of itself. It looks like Chinese chili. You know that that's gonna be good and that it will definitely destroy your butthole. To finish, I'm gonna drop in my cooked noodles and broccolini, then toss until everything is very well combined. Again, you could make this dish in a 12-inch nonstick if you don't have a wok, but I love a big wok because it can hold so much food and it makes 4 adult-sized portions easily. Okay, once things are stirred to combine, I'm gonna move this over to a bowl, then top with some chopped peanuts and some thinly sliced scallions to bring some green and fresh onion flavor. Wow. I mean, that is just filth. Get the kids out of the room. They can't look at this.
My God. This is honestly, seriously, top 10 recipes that we ever have done on this channel. It's really good. Peanut butter makes it creamy. There's meat, there's vegetables, there's sweetness from the hoisin. The chili crisp. This is a good dish, and you should make it. It only takes like 25 minutes.
Ground beef meal number 4 is a Moroccan-inspired stew that takes only 15 minutes and brings a bunch of different fun flavors to your life that you're probably not currently experiencing. The first step is to get 1 pound of ground beef browned off and broken down. You guys know the drill there. And once I've got some prepared beef, I'm gonna start building the stew. In goes 225 grams of diced onion and 20 grams of pressed garlic. Then I'll jump in and saute with the beef for about 4 to 5 minutes over medium heat. Here I wanna soften the onion and open up the flavor of the garlic. Don't cook this on high heat though, because it will dry out the beef and probably burn the garlic. Okay, that's looking good. The onions are translucent and the garlic is softened. So next I'm gonna add in 15 grams of all-purpose flour. Gluten-free cup for cup would also work fine. Then then 20 grams of Ras Al Hanout spice blend. Ras Al Hanout is a pungent North African spice blend that's pretty easy to make at home with some basic spices. For this dish, I combined 15 grams of smoked paprika, 3 grams of turmeric, 3 grams of cumin, 3 grams of coriander, 1 gram of ground clove, 2 grams of cinnamon, and then a few shakes of cayenne pepper. Of course, if you don't have these spices, you could buy pre-made Ras Al Hanout. Just watch out for blends that are full of salt. That makes the dish taste like it was seasoned with Lowry's instead of North African spice. Next, I'll just stir to combine and fry the spices for about 60 seconds or until things have evolved from raw and separate to cooked and unified, like this. Next is tomato paste, about 35 grams worth, then 15 grams of Better Than Bouillon beef base or any bouillon product, and then 400 grams of beef stock. From here, I'll bring the whole thing up to a simmer, let the flour thicken things up, and I'll reduce for about 10 minutes or until the liquid is a touch thicker and it's gripping the meat like a thin gravy. Next, I'll drop in a can of drained chickpeas, then I'll stir to combine and cook down for another 2 minutes. At this point, I also like to add in a little touch of brown sugar, like maybe 5 to 10 grams. This isn't going to sweeten things, but it's going to support the warm spices and bring just one more layer of flavor. The last step here is to add in 10 grams of chopped fresh cilantro and then stir that in. To serve, I'll drop on some buttered Moroccan couscous that also took almost no time to prepare. Recipe for this down in the description, by the way. Finally, I'll drizzle on some Greek yogurt that I thinned out with some water, lemon juice, and hit with a little bit of salt. Then finally some chopped cilantro to bring some green pretty to the top of this dish. And that's a Moroccan beef stew with yogurt, cilantro, and couscous. Let's taste it. I'm having a hard time describing what this dish tastes like. It's got a bit of a warmth to it, it's mysterious, and it's perfumed from the cinnamon and the Ras Al Hanout, which are very distinctive. You get the chickpeas in there paired with this surprisingly good pasta/grain couscous. You guys have heard of that? But I don't eat it that often. And with this dish, it's really, really great. You get a little bit of tang from the thinned out yogurt there to cream everything up and to bring just a little bit of acidity to balance out the richness of the beef. This is awesome. It's very unique too. For the last dish, I figured out what I think is a pretty clever way to approximate a gyro at home. To make the gyro meat, I'll grab that trusty 8515 and drop it into a food chopper, then add 25 grams of breadcrumbs, 50 grams of onions, which you should cut small so they blend in a little bit easier, then 2 cloves of garlic, 5 grams of salt, 2 grams of black pepper, 3 grams of coriander, 5 grams of cumin, 1 gram of oregano, and a strong pinch of chili flakes. Now, the lid goes on and I'll spin this meat for about 1 minute or until the onions are well broken down and everything is homogeneous. During spinning, you may need to stop and scrape down a few times just to make sure things are chopping evenly. And there we go. Now we have oniony meat paste. From here, I'll divide this meat into 4 pieces that are about 130 grams. I'm using a scale here, but you could definitely eyeball it. Then I'll shape this clod of beef into a patty that more or less looks like a thick McDonald's hash brown. This form factor is going to give us a ton of surface area to pick up smoky flavor from the grill. Outside, I've got a ripping hot grill that I'll prepare for cooking by spraying with a liberal amount of olive oil pan spray, or you could wipe this with an oil-soaked paper towel. Next, I'll drop on all 4 of my gyro patties and grill these hard on the first side for about 5 minutes. Every grill is going to be different here, so cook time will vary, but for me, 4 to 5 minutes is more than enough time to get some serious grill marks and browning on the meat. Yeah, this looks amazing. If you don't have a grill, by the way, you could high roast these patties in an oven at about 550F or 500F for 12 minutes. You'll get a similar result. And after cooking on the backside for about 4 to 5 minutes, I'll bring these patties inside to build up my gyro. As you can see, we got some really nice grillage on the outside of these things, and this kind of approximates the way it would look if it was cooked on a spit in a Euro restaurant. Internal temp here should be no lower than 145 and probably no higher than 150. Now to serve, after 5 minutes of resting, I'm gonna slice the Euro patties somewhere in the ballpark of 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit thicker. It doesn't really matter that much. When they shave the Euro meat off the spit in the restaurant, it's never that thin, so we don't need something super shaved here. And once that's sliced, I'm gonna chop it once more in half to break it down. Then I'm gonna pile the whole thing on top of a hot and floppy pita. I'll top that with a little bit of fresh tzatziki sauce. Well, actually like a lot of tzatziki sauce. To make it, I'll grate 1 large English cucumber on my box grater, then chop it once to break it down a little bit further. From there, I'll wrap it up in a paper towel and squish out all the water. This will make for a much thicker, less diluted sauce, and in total I need about 150 grams here. Next, cukes go into a container with 200 grams of plain Greek yogurt, then 75 grams of mayonnaise, 1 minced garlic clove, 5 grams of salt, 5 grams of chopped fresh dill, and then the juice of half of a lemon, or about 15 grams worth. Stir to combine, and now you've got a fresh, herby tzatziki sauce ready to lube up the Mediterranean sandwich of your choice. Next, I'll drop on some juicy diced fresh tomato, then some pepperoncini dogs for some heat and acidity, then finally some shredded lettuce for some fresh crunchiness. And that is a gyro, guys. Now, let's taste it.
Bro, I'm not joking when I say that this tastes exactly like a gyro in a Euro restaurant. I can like see the hot Greek girl poster even. When you combine that chopped meatball thing that we made with everything else, like the yogurt, the juicy tomatoes, the pepperoncini, the lettuce, the dill, it all comes together to paint a picture that just says Euro. It's very satisfying, it's super craveable, and I love it. It's delicious.
If you guys like this video, then you're probably gonna like this video right here. In that video, I cook food and tell you about it. You love that. Go ahead, click it. See you there.